Hi guys, and welcome to another video. This is going to be a little bit different from the ones I've posted previously because this is a much longer trip, at least by my standards. So I'm going to be splitting this journey over maybe about two or three different videos. So my ultimate destination is a place called Howgill Lodge, which is a campsite up in North Yorkshire, which is pretty close to the lovely little village of Appletree Wick, which is again not far from Barden and Grassington. So if you've ever been to the Yorkshire Dales, you've quite possibly heard of some of those places. The most direct route to reach this place for me is to drive up through Hebden Bridge, over the moors, up through Haworth and Keighley, and then on the dual carriageway up for a bit to, I think, Skipton and then sort of north from there. Now, Luna, my scooter, it's 125. It's heavily loaded up with camping gear. At best, it wants to hit just over 50, so I'm not very confident with taking it on the dual carriageway. So I've gone for a much slower and windier route, which adds about half an hour onto the journey time, but should also add some very picturesque parts to this ride, which I'm quite looking forward to. So instead of going up through Keighley and such, I'm instead taking a very windy route that's going to go past various reservoirs. It's going to take me up through the edge of Colne, um, over all sorts of really beautiful, quite wild countryside, and then finally up through Skipton. And from there, then again, beautiful countryside until we reach our destination. So we're just leafing around the outskirts of Heptonstall at the moment. This is Draper Lane, which will eventually be taking us onto Woodop Road, which is then a long, windy road that sort of follows the contours of the valley past a few reservoirs, including Woodop Reservoir, Gorple, uh, and some other ones, I think Coldwell. And then that eventually takes us up to Trawden Forest, which is probably where we'll end this particular video. Okay, so this is where we turn onto Woodop Road, and this is where the fun begins because this is a very narrow, very windy road with some proper hairpins, some extremely steep sections and extremely narrow sections. And it really turns into quite the roller coaster ride. I've never ridden on a road quite as extreme as this before, but Luna took it in its paces, and I didn't die, so it's all good. A little tip I kind of picked up from an Estonian friend of mine is when you're on these really narrow little lanes with lots of blind corners and dips in the road and such, which means you can't always see oncoming traffic, just use the horn. What it's there for, right? Is to alert other people to your presence. So you'll hear a few bleeps and bloops from the horn on this road. So here we are coming up to some sharp hairpins as the road twists up very steeply. You see, there's actually a couple of cars waiting already, presumably maybe heard my horn. And I was like, ah, thanks for waiting, guys. And then as soon as I set off, they set off. So I don't quite know what happened there. There was more than enough room for me to get past my motorcycle. That bit is very, very steep. But that's not the steepest bit. The steepest bit is actually around the corner here. And as you can see, the road is just absolutely bonkers. That was a very, very steep bit, but again, Luna handled it just fine. Surprisingly powerful little engine, really. All things told. And then another sharp turn, and up we come. I have quite a few firsts on this journey. First time encountering livestock on the road when I'm driving. It'll be the first time crossing some cattle grids. Um, Definitely. Oh, first time riding a dirt track, as you will see later on. It's a journey that is quite an adventure for me. This area where you can see some construction work going on, that's normally where the car park for Widdop Reservoir is, because you can do a really nice like loop-in walk that goes, you start at Widdop and you kind of um, follow a path around the edge of the reservoir, then up over the hills onto the moors, takes you past some really cool sort of rock formations, and you end up at Upper Gorple Reservoir, then you follow the track down to Lower Gorple, then you kind of loop back on the road. So I've done that quite a few times. Although I've always sort of come out here with friends who've had cars and things, so I've never gone this way on my own before. And I've also never experienced this road beyond this point ever before, so this is all completely new to me. I've never been up here in a car, and I've never been up here on my own. Um, I can see why people probably don't come up this far because this road from this point on gets extremely up and down, extremely narrow. Um, it's a roller coaster, basically. It's a road that thinks it's a roller coaster, which in hindsight is really fun to ride on, but which was quite an interesting experience to do for the first time. It's quite nice to see another motorcyclist out tackling this route, actually. Just made me feel like I wasn't a complete lunatic to be out here on my own. Now, I sort of count myself lucky that I really didn't run into any traffic out here at all. There was nothing behind me. I think this is probably like the first car that I've encountered since those other ones back at the hairpins, and this one kindly waited for me. And the sign on the left indicates that I'm coming up to my very first cattle grid, which I had no particular concerns about losing traction or anything on, but I took it nice and easy. Um, as you'll probably see in the next video, I think the fastest I end up taking on is about 40 odd miles an hour. It's probably not the best idea, but yeah, no issues. This is another windy, interesting little bit of road as we finally start creeping out of the valley. Some nice trees on there, which breaks up the skyline a little bit. I'm just coming up on Lower Coldwell Reservoir here, and the road follows the edge of the reservoir, and the bend just feels like it goes on and on and on, like you're going to do a full 360. Still going. And then finally the road straightens out again. Then finally, after all that narrow windiness, the road finally gets a bit broader and straight. So we can finally open the taps a little bit and get Luna up into the sort of mid-40s. There are some more really nice long straights coming up, which will probably be in the second or third video. for now, as we approach Drawden, I think it's a good time to wrap up this video. If you got this far, thank you so much. I don't know if these are particularly interesting to anybody apart from me, but I'm creating these as much for myself as for anybody. So a little record of my various and sundry little rides. So anyway, I hope you got some value from it. If you've got any feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments, whether I'm talking too much or not enough. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.